tell by all of you. In it, you will see Ms. Arrington, Mr. Seitz, Mrs. Fleischman, Mr. McNeil, Ms. Haas, Mr. Reese, Ms. Rice, Mr. Neville, Ms. Estrada, Mr. Conley, and many others too numerous to mention. The name of our town is Rio Hondo College, just over the line from Rose Hill. And the dump. The first part shows the speech that was given before the first play ever done on this stage. The date is January 11th, 1967, just before curtain. Is Chris Vanda still here? That's your cue. Just before curtain. Yeah, just about. Well, now I'll show you how our town lies. Up there is the main campus. Cutting across it there is a ramp. This here is the theater. You know, eager young students come here to work hard, meet lifelong friends, and learn about themselves and about life. Over there is business. Art is down below. Putnam Center and Student Services is over there. PE is down in the hall across the road. Next to the dressing rooms there is the shop. The stage is right next door. Lily Tomlin once did a show from these very boards. Above the main wall back there is a row of windows, sound and light equipment behind them. The first computer board is going to come along in about 20 years. Down the hall there is the music department and the theater offices. Most everybody manages to look into those offices once a day. This is the apron. And, whoa. Here's a couple of set pieces for those of you who feel you have to have scenery. And right here is a big proscenium arch. Nice theater, know what I mean? The earliest dates in the archives over there in the script library say 1964. There's Corfs and Francises and Rays and Garcias, same names around here now. Just before curtain, the only activities are in the dressing room when the cast is getting ready for the show, in the tech office where Don Gertz is prepping the crew, and in the light booth where Gene Putnam is getting ready to execute the first light cue. Ah, there she is now. So another show has begun. Oh, there's Ron Ranson coming down the aisle. People are gone, and all the lights are out, but theater folk, well, we work late. Yes. Oh, there's Gene Corp, his colleague, coming down the other aisle. She's coming up here to greet the cast. Now, Jean retired in 1990. Nothing's named after her yet. Mr. Ranson left Rio first, a long time ago, in fact. He went down to UC San Diego to run the theater tech program there. But he comes back from time to time. In our theater, we like to keep in touch with everybody.
Hi, Gene. Good evening. The cast and crew are ready. Okay, everybody, this is it. You are the beginning of this college and this theater. We've spent the last 4 years going from one classroom to another. We've done shows at different theaters and all over the area from our first show, Solid Gold Cadillac, was very first, 3 years ago at the Whittier Civic Auditorium. All my sons done at the Little Lake Elementary School. But now we have a home. Our new home, the Little Theater on the new campus of Rio Hondo College. You've worked hard, you're ready, show's in great shape, great delay, everybody. And now I bless the stage and the show. Oh, I get down.
Hello? Yes, this is Foreman Machines. Who you want? Mr. Kotlowitz? Mr. Kotlowitz? Oh, you need David. He ain't here. He's out delivering. Call back later when he's here.
And those were the first words spoken on this stage.
Enter Laughing by Joseph Stein. If we chose this place to inaugurate this theater because it has a large cast, mostly of young people, it's a comedy about the theater in which the lead character learns what it means to be an actor. And what better way than to inaugurate a theater with a play titled Enter Laughing?
And I was actually in that play. I played a friend of David's. And I wonder if there are anybody in here that was in that play with me in the very first play. I think there are at least 2. And Carolyn Wray was right there. She played Angela, and we had a great time. And it was the first show.
Thanks, John. Now, we are going to show you a scene from that show, not with the original actors. Our actors are Rob Tracy, who attended Rio in the 70s. From the 90s. Amanda Gomez from the aughts, as they're called. And Michael Garcia, who's a current student. Enter Laughing.
Next!
Daddy, let's have the cute one.
Which one was the cute one?
The one who was looking at me.
Oh,
The one with the brown vest.
bring back James Mason. Don Coleman?
Don Coleman!
Oh, me!
Have you ever acted before, boy?
Where, sir?
In a play, boy.
Well, not in a play exactly.
In what then, exactly?
Well, at this thing, I sang the Isle of Capri, and I did my impersonations of Edward G. Robinson and Ronald Colman.
At what thing did you do these things?
Senior day, James Monroe High School. That's in the Bronx.
Wonderful. Let's see one of the other juveniles, please.
Perhaps we should hear Mr. Monroe read.
Coleman.
We may have a natural talent.
You think so?
Daddy will never know unless we give him
Oh, all right. Give him a script. Read the part of Jeff Hemming. Mr. Pike will cue you.
He'll do what, sir?
He'll cue you? You know what that means?
You mean he'll cue me wherever I have to be cued?
Dated from Jeff's entrance. Serving tea. Here it says, must be just now. Read.
Enter laughing. I trust I haven't kept you.
Read that again, will you?
Enter laughing. I trust I
Mr. Cole. There is a parenthesis around Enter Laughing. It is a stage direction.
Oh. I'm supposed to laugh when I enter.
Enter Laughing means that you laugh when you enter. Proceed.
May I ask a question? What is he laughing about?
It is in the nature of the character. Jeff Hemming is a delicately care young man. He breaks in on a solemn family gathering for the reading of a will.
Who died?
His uncle.
And he's laughing. Why?
Because I say so.
You see, he's amused by the false solemnity of the others. They're only interested in the old man's money, but he insists.
Oh, the devil with it. Just let me hear you laugh, then go into the speech.
Just let him hear you laugh and go into the speech.
Amused laugh. Amused, boy, amused. Splendid. Now read.
I trust I haven't kept you waiting too long, but I know that in your right time.
Grief, boy. In your grief, time has no meaning.
In your grief, time has no meaning.
Why are you so late, Jeff?
It says chuckles in parentheses.
Continue.
Should I do it the way it says? It says angry in parentheses.
Please. You only have yourself to blame, Jeff.
That's not true, Horace, and you!
You'll be mine waiting outside. Angela, your cute one stinks.
You frightened him, Daddy. You frightened everyone.
I didn't frighten him enough. He's smiling at me.
He has a darling personality.
Where? Where is it? And we cannot allow him into a theater. We are asking the audience to toss coins into a paper plate. We must have some integrity.
First, Dean of the Arts here at Rio Hondo, and I was concerned, and so were many others, about maintaining a certain amount of integrity here. And so, when the college board approved my recommendation to hire Jean Corp as our director, it was a great day. Our choice was later validated by her induction into the College of Fellows of American Theater, recognizing her distinguished service and notable accomplishments of national stature. Along with Jean, we had Don Gertz, as technical director. We then went from here to KOCE, which is now KOCE. Then we were very fortunate in having a very, very talented, multi-talented Ron Ranson as our technical director. Gene and Ron made a great team, created a feeling of family here, inspiring students to outstanding performances. Grace and I were pleased to have witnessed almost every major production, including one at the festival Fringe in Scotland. We were impressed that students improvised, were actors, ushers, technical staff, all the while learning every facet of theater production. Then Gene and Ron also took our students to entertain our troops in the Pacific Theater under the auspices of the USO. And I could go on and on to tell you how proud I and the college were in their accomplishments. Gene also attracted talented theater professionals that enhanced the program. Among them were Bob Isley, Gil Jordan, Roy Conley, Ad Williamson, Ed Reinhardt, Marilyn Blyant, Gene Putnam, Santa Claus, Harry Sykes, and of course, all of you past and former students and present students, where the tradition lives on with Bill Korf and Gabriel Carrasco and staff. So we are all richer because of your contributions to the Rio Hondo College Theater program. And it is now my pleasure to present Gene Korf.
Before I tell you about the earliest shows at Rio, I wanted to say what a wonderful staff and administration we have when we started. And thanks to you, Yosh, we could not have done this whole thing without your leadership. After Enter Laughing, we decided on Medea. We had a wonderful actress who we've already met in Carolyn Wray. Not only was she very talented, but her father had a lot to do with the creation of Rio Hondo College. Check out the plaque in the lobby, please, and you'll find that his name also graces this theater, Merton Wray. So we had a woman to play Medea, but Medea requires 2 young boys. And guess what? Another happy event that had national consequences was our production of Rashomon. Faye and Michael Kanan wrote a play based on the Japanese film of the same name. Since ours was the first production in the new American College Theater Festival, I made an effort to reach the Kanans and invite them to see our production. They lived on the Santa Monica beach. You know how those people feel about driving to Whittier? Michael did come, and he was so impressed with the work of college students that he went on to become active in ACTF and created the original play category, which still exists today, and which has introduced several young playwrighs to the professional theater. And I think go on from there. Because I was in several educational theater organizations, especially ACTF in Southern California, we were fortunate to have several adjudicators from the film industry. One of these was Leonora Schildkraut, widow of Joseph Schildkraut, who portrayed Otto Frank in both state production of The Diary of Anne Frank, but also in the film. In 1984, the Korf family was going on sabbatical, and we would drive through Europe all the way to Moscow. Leonora phoned me the night before we left and asked if we were going to Switzerland. My positive reply was, and she said she would call Otto Frank and set up a meeting with us, with Otto Frank. You will remember that Anne Frank wrote her diary at the suggestion of her father, Otto Frank. And if you haven't read it, go do it right away. Waited too long, but do it. He greeted us warmly, and all 5 of us visited with him, talking about our plans which were ahead. When it was time to go, we walked down a very narrow staircase in single file, with Mr. Frank standing at the top of the stairs, and Lee and me and the children walking down the stairway. As we reached the exit to go outside to our car, Otto Frank said, "You children are about to have a wonderful experience driving through Europe. You must keep a diary." When I learned about the touring program sponsored by the American Educational Theater Association, I decided to apply. We were successful, and our first tour under the auspices of the Department of Defense and with the USO was Funny Girl. It had 15 actors and 85 costumes. The traveling sets were all designed by Ron Ranson, and I see some of them are still up here. We were told that we were the first 2-year college selected for touring, but if we were successful, they would consider other 2-year colleges. We were selected 3 more times. So I did want to mention Ed Williamson, because Ed did the college with most of those 85 costumes. The next thing we did was enter the largest arts festival in the world, the International Arts Festival held in Edinburgh, Scotland. A lot of you here, I know, were in those shows. We won 2 fringe firsts for productions of original plays. The production of new plays was also a focus of Rio Hondo, and we did 3 fairly unknown short plays by Ray Bradbury. We did the West Coast premiere of A Night Thoreau Spent in Jail by Lawrence and Lee, and also plays by several less recognized playwrights. There were so many other productions that there's no time to go through them. When you look at that list in the program you have, I'll tell you some of my favorites, but I think they were all my favorites. I love Cabaret, Blood Wedding, A Streetcar Named Desire, She Stoops to Conquer, Sweet Charity, Agnes of God, and on and on and on. There were so many. One reason I was really encouraged by all this, because for several years I had a wonderful, talented, creative colleague to share it with. Ron Ranson, who had been a student of mine at Cal High, and in his graduate years at UCLA, we brought him to Rio Hondo College as a tech director, and here he is.
Great to see so many people here, back here tonight. It is a great community, isn't it? We've had so many artistic triumphs over the years, but to me, the thing that stands out over all these miles and all these years is the community of people that Rio Hondo Theater has created. And it started way back when, and it goes on today. It's one of the unique things that you should be very proud of about this theater and this college. So, over the years, Rio has had many opportunities for students to design, stage manage, do costumes, props, publicity, filmmaking, and I want to show some of my favorites. Bill only gave us 8 minutes. Bill, I contributed a lot out there today, Bill, so I'm hoping so there were thousands of slides that Jim Yarmer and Gabe and Juliana and Bill and I looked at. Some of those slides are going to be in a loop over at the Cafe Rio next door after the program here today, so you'll have a chance to see a lot of the others. So I was very proud of the opportunities that we were able to give to students. Rio has never been one of those colleges where the staff or the paid graduate students do all the work. This is student-driven, as you know, and it's something to be very proud of. So let me just get my... So the first of my shows is that I want to talk about is Death of a Salesman, right here on the stage. And Steve Devil, I think, was in that. Who else was in that? So this was a tricky set because it had some blocking situations that you had to get around. But we tried to create the skeleton effect of Willie's old house and the fact that the neighborhood was moving in around him, squishing him tighter and tighter. We had great projections on the background here. Okay, Gabe. And one of the challenges we had to face was how to get the boys from their bedroom upstairs down and change costumes for a period, time change, and then come out back around from behind the set to a new scene. So we made hoops over the beds, so the boys would get into bed and they would turn over, and we put a playground slide underneath the hoops, slide down, change their costumes, and come back. The audience was amazed. They could never figure it out. They're great tricks of the theater. So in New York, they had an elevator. You know, we had a playground slide. So here's the backstage view. Okay. So one of the other shows, G mentioned Rashomon. That was one of our favorites. We built a huge Japanese gate over the proscenium here. It's about 4 feet thick, went up, and it's like a gate you would see if you went into the ancient city of Kyoto. They still exist. Mike Hahn, who's here tonight, lived up above here. And this was, Gene mentioned, it was chosen to troop to Los Angeles and be in a regional festival. So everything came down, and we went to Los Angeles, put it back up, and performed over there. Here's a ladder up to the gate part that you see. And this is a show that requires the characters to describe a scene that they saw, but it's described in 4 different ways. So we had a brilliant, budding young filmmaker at the time, Buddy Doyle, who couldn't be here tonight, unfortunately, who went out and we made a film that projected onto a screen that came in just about where these fellows are. The screen came in and each of the characters came down here on the stage and told the story. And the story, we filmed it over here right on the freeway with samurai warriors, horses, costumes, the whole thing. And we projected that onto this black screen. The audience was mesmerized every night. It was an absolute wonder. Go ahead, Gabe. There's a couple other shots here. Yeah, here we go. On Thurber Carnival. The Thurber Carnival was a summer show. And I'm very proud of this because this was Robert Morales' first show, and he went on to do several other professional shows in Los Angeles, including Zoot Suit. And it was a very simple show about the stories and drawings of James Thurber. We had right across the middle of the stage, we had a conveyor belt that brought the actors in and took props out the other side. We had some cutout furniture down here. All the props, all the furniture, the things that the actors touched were all cut out and painted as James Thurber would have done them. There was a little jazz band in the center with little Thurber drawings back here. It was a great little show. Patty, you were in the show, weren't you? Yeah. So, and it was one of the simple shows, but one of my favorites. Here's Mike Hahn. Mike Hahn, how many shows were you in? So here's, how many? 14. So here's a Thurber drawing, and we lit it from in front and behind, and just created this wonderful atmosphere. Well, one of the biggest shows that we did was Inherit the Wind. And Inherit the Wind, it takes place as a courtroom, but they set it up in the town square. Well, this is just about the time that foam and foam products made their way into the theater. So we could take foam and cut it on the saws and other kinds of things. All this stuff is foam in here. So we were able to create kind of a wonky feeling of this little town that wasn't made out of traditional wood. So we were one of the pioneers out there in using non-traditional materials, we'll call it, in the theater. This is a very powerful show. There's Mike Hahn again. So you can't take it with you. It was one of my favorites. Van Padgalskis was the student director on that. And just had a great, you reacted to that. The curtain went up. They had a great time at that show because that's what that set indicated to them. Isn't that great? It was a lovely, lovely show. Sweet Charity was one of those great big Broadway musicals we would do in the summers. And Gene, I think we had about 35 people in the orchestra that goes down here. And chorus and dancers and the whole thing. But for the overture, you go to the theater and you go, oh, overture, and you hear those songs and stuff again. And Buddy Doyle again, with Don Kilson and Paul Desktop, who now works for National Geographic, created a film for the overture that played over the overture. So right here, right beyond the proscenium, a screen came in, and there were two simultaneous projectors running in the booth that had like Jean Corf's picture and her name, my name and my picture, and it flipped back and forth. We saw a montage of great scenes from rehearsals and the orchestra, which the audience never saw, and the film played all the way through the overture. Then at the end, Carolyn Thompson strikes a certain pose, and the show begins. We went down to Pershing Square, of all places in Los Angeles, which substituted for Central Park, and had her running around Pershing Square. She came in, she stood behind the scrim right here, came into the pose on the film, and the lights came up behind the scrim, and the show began. And the audience clapped. Such a great opening. So this was all done with 16 millimeter projectors, which the fellows somehow synced it up so it was the same every night. This is before anything where you could even spell digital, right? So they did it by hand and knew where they were in the orchestra and the overture every night to make sure it all flipped at the same time. It was really spectacular. So, okay, another scene from West Side Story was, gosh, I have to tell this story. But Gene was on sabbatical, and we decided to hire Al DeSille, who his claim to fame was that he was in the original Broadway show of West Side Story. And he went around the country directing West Side Stories. So Steve Gaskins was our student who was qualified to be designer. We gave the assignment to Steve. Well, it turned out to be 110% frustration for Steve because Al, unbeknownst to us, always wanted the original set for West Side Story to come and be with him while he got the same old thing for years. Well, it was a pretty boring set, and we didn't have the money. So Steve came up with, let's go to the next slide, these great geometric shapes that were push and slide and flip over, and the guys could dance on top, and they could snap their fingers and all that stuff, and created this wonderful atmosphere over here. And poor Steve, I thought, was going to quit, 3 times a week. Al finally relented on that, and it was a great looking show. So you can see there's a lot of graffiti on here. And we had 2 fellows, Steve De La Torre and Bruce Kernahan, who are still painters, come in every night from 10 in the evening to 3 for 3.5 weeks and spray graffiti over everything. I've never seen happier 18. Getting units to spray graffiti. Just think about that one, trying to tell their parents. So the Act 4 of this story is that Al DeSille left us and went around the U.S. Directing West Side Story, and you guessed it, then he wanted Steve Gaskins set every time. Okay, very good. Bluebird of Happiness is a show that Jim Yarmer, who's here tonight, designed. Here's a before shot, and we'll go to the next one, Gabe, which was this wonderful floating bird on the stage. The audience saw this as they came in. And one of the things that Jim did was put heavy padding underneath a thick layer of canvas. So we didn't hear the actors come leave the stage. And the audience couldn't quite figure out why that show was so different. But it was quite spectacular and really one of the most beautiful shows that we've done here at Rio. So I thought for a while that Jim only designed shows that had happiness in the title. So the next show Jim designed was Pursuit of Happiness, which was set in the American Revolutionary period. And back in the 70s, oh my God, 70s, Rio Hondo was fortunate to have this vast array of antique shops in Whittier that created this tremendous inventory of props and furniture and costume pieces in some cases that we had access to and really gave us a signature look that other schools didn't have at that time. So one of the highlights of the show was that at the beginning there was some music and this and that, and there was a great show curtain that took up this whole space here. Isn't that great? It was 40 feet long by 30 feet tall. Absolutely wonderful. Told the story of the revolution right there. Jim painted this back on the paint frame when he wasn't working with his hair to get it. And look at the size of that brush, and remember that he painted 40 feet here. It was a great job, Jim. Art director of scenic design. Anybody seen Hung? Anybody would admit to seeing Hung? Blame him. Christmas Carol. There was a very special confluence, if that's the word, of personalities and creative types that came together in the fall of 78 to create, I think, the most wonderful Christmas Carol I've ever seen, and I've designed several others besides this. But the sets, the costumes, I even drug my dad in here to help on the props. There's one hanging. See this light up here? It's hanging on the stage back here. Not still, but it came out of props. So this was, I can't say enough about the show, just the way it worked and the people and the personalities, the style of it is something that I'll be proud of the rest of my life. It was really a wonderful show. So my final pick here tonight is Picnic. And here's two houses in a little yard that face each other back here. So Rio has always had very supportive audiences, haven't they, over the years. And something resonated with the audiences that saw Picnic that I just wanted to say here. I designed the set, Tom LeDuc did the lighting, added the costumes. And night after night, as Gene and I would stand outside, people would come up and say, that was a great representation of Fresno. Thank you. That looked just like Nebraska. Boy, I just had hot nights in the trees. So finally my folks saw every show that we did. And they came on the last night, talked to my dad. He said, "Did you ever see where I grew up in Utah? That is the exact same backyard." And I said, "No, I've never seen it." He said, it's impossible to believe you haven't seen it. 10 years later, I went and I visited his backyard. It's nothing like that. So it was one of those things that a designer always wants to do is get the audience to come along in the story and join in the environment and leave all that stuff outside and just go with us with the text and the play. And something about that show did it. Let's go on to the next one. So this was also the first job that my son Andy had. I paid him a penny apiece to put the phony and real leaves on the set. Go ahead, Gabe. They're right along there. He made $3. He was so this provided this show, Picnic, and this audience reaction was a wonderful marker for me for many years, and something I had to think about very carefully when I was designing the show and what would the audience feel. Well, thanks for your time. I just wanted to say how proud I am to be a part of your creative and theater and in many cases your family lives for all these years. It's been my honor to be a part of that. So let's do it again. Continuing on, we have three very talented people from the very early days of Rio Hondo. You've introduced Carolyn Wray before, but Carolyn's going to come. Mike Hahn and Patty Patterson right here.
It's not that old hip replacement thing, is it? The knee replacement. Okay, here we go. Mike Hahn on stage again.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Ray, and this is my sister Nancy. We're here representing Merton Ray, for whom this building and theater was named. Rio Hondo College was born during World War II, when our father spent some time in a German prison camp. And during what he called his 9 months of incubation and reflection, he developed a strong belief that the power of education for the masses was a great democratizer and could prevent future wars which were based on ignorance. After the war, he returned to his family and his law practice here in Whittier. As a member of the high school board, the Whittier Unified High School Board, he was the lone voice for years in making a motion to form a community college district here in the area. He finally got a second to his motion, but the first 2 bond elections failed. Merton had to lead the charge and withstand harsh public criticisms, even to the extent of being called a communist or a pinko for actually advocating free higher education for all. When the second bond election failed, there was actually a sign up on Whittier Boulevard that was posted that said, "Give it up, Ray, USOB." Wow. We used to drive by that with our boyfriends. But Dad did not give in. And with the success of the third bond election, the campus planning began. And he became the first board president for Rio Hondo Community College. His love of the theater is evident in the planning here. He wanted this theater building to be next to the student union so that students could talk about the plays before and after as an intellectual type of stimulation. So our family truly has been involved with the Rio Hondo Theater program even before its 50 years incubation. I, of course, have done not 14, 15 shows, but I've done quite a few here and taught here, etc., etc. So on behalf of our family, we continue to be grateful to the Rio Hondo community for naming this dynamic theater after our father. He truly did fight hard at great risk to his career and his reputation to create Rio Hondo Community College with this very vibrant, exciting theater program that is housed here today. So thank you again from our family. And now I introduce Michael Hahn, who's been here on stage 14 shows.
Some of those were one acts too. They weren't all. I was here in the late 60s, early 70s. I was in 3 American College Theater Festival entries. Rashomon being one of the most memorable and creative that I remember. The Ron Ransom built the Rashomon gate was the proscenium, and it had supports, and you had kind of a bare kabuki background with water dripping down that stained in bamboo, and it was quite impressive. That was very memorable. But the one I want to talk about, of Mice and Men, was one of the first student productions. Direction, Paul Morales did the set. It was a giant turntable disc that the silhouettes, the actors as farmers and so forth would move the set and change it from each section. The end of the play, I played George, the companion of Lenny, and of course, if anyone knows the show, at the end of the play, Lenny accidentally kills the farmer, the boss's wife, and the crowd comes to hang him, and right here, he was kneeling down, and I'm going to kill him. I have a pistol in my pocket, and I took it out of my jacket, and the light cue was, he would say, I can see the rabbits, George, I can see the rabbits. And then the lights would go out, the gun would go off, you hear him fall, and the play was over. So I was standing behind him, and I was crying a little bit, and I picked the gun, and the lights went out, and went click. Click, click, click. And it was quiet, and you heard me say, oh, shit. I went and locked myself in the dressing room. I thought I'd wrecked the play. Gene came and talked me out of it. He was very kind and sympathetic. And that was for a bunch of high school students. Anyway, Inherit the Wind was also a special show because of all the famous people that Gene had connected us with. I mean, Carl Malden, Arthur O'Connell, Charlton Heston, Ray Bradbury, all these famous people as judges, and sometimes came to see the shows and would always come backstage. Like Dr. Nakamura was another one that always had nice things to say. Mainly, I want to say that Gene and Ron, by the way, I always called her Mrs. Court, out of respect. I couldn't say Gene because she meant a lot to me. The one thing about her is she was always in a hurry. And she always had her files and her scripts under her arm, and she'd be running down the hallway, and I had something I thought important to say, and I'd have to run to keep up with her. Years later, I thought, Mike, maybe she didn't want to talk to me. Gene and Ron created a palette of colors, sets, costumes, Ed Williams' costumes, makeup, and great production values for us artists to use our imagination and make our dreams come true. And it's something I will never forget this theater. I knew Ray, went to his house several times. He was a very kind, generous, theater-oriented person, and I thought highly of him and Gene and Ron. Thank you very much.
My first experience with Rio Hondo Theater Department was in the summer of 1967. I went to see How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, in which my friend's high school drama teacher, Squire Friedel, had the lead role. This is one of the many Rio alumni names that I will never forget. I was so impressed that I decided that I was going to try out for the next summer musical in '68. It was Funny Girl, and I was going to be a star. Well, at the tryouts, I saw Carolyn Thompson auditioning for Fanny Bryce, and I decided then and there that I was going to work backstage. Of course, that's how I met Ron Ranson, tech director extraordinaire. Girl, building sets on 3 by Bradbury, to stage managing of Mice and Men. Sorry, Mike. I was able to watch such great talents as Mike Hahn, Steve Neville, Carolyn Ray, Kip Cat, and Brian Donahue. When I was lucky enough to be cast in Inherit the Wind, I got to work alongside some of these people. It's an experience I'll never forget. And that was the first of many shows directed by G. Corp that I was fortunate to act in. Now, you know, when you do shows at Rio, it's really hard to get the experience out of your system. To this day, I have this recurring dream that Jean has cast me as Emily in our town again. I keep telling her I'm too old to play it, but she insists that I can still play the part.
Play the part. Play the part.
Mother Gibbs. Mother Gibbs.
What? Oh, Emily! I'm sorry, it gets boring sitting up here in the graveyard looking out over Grover's Corners. I was just trying to pass the time by listening to a little Schubert's Last Serenade. To Grover's Corners?
No, it's some of my Rio Hondo Theater days. I mean, the shows that I did in the 60s were just the beginning.
Oh, all right. But remember, you can only pick one decade.
You said you sound like a stage manager. Okay, well, I guess I picked the 1970s.
Oh, and it follows chronologically. How convenient. All right, it's the 1970s. Angel flight pants are worn by the guys, much to the girls' delight. Shag haircuts, shag carpeting, ponchos, and platform shoes. Now remember, you can go back, but you can't take it with you.
You can't be both Mrs. Gibbs and the stage manager.
Actually, she can. Cynthia Snyder played Mrs. Gibbs in Our Town on the first Edinburgh tour in 1976, and then played the stage manager on the second Edinburgh tour in 1978. What an actress!
Yeah, oh, Bill Corf.
Oh, it's George.
Yes, oh,
And
Pat O'Connor. And then you had Nancy. Oh, she was.
Wait. Hi. We are first to say that Bill has already done an Our Town reference, and second to represent all those Rio Hondo actors who were not in a production of Our Town.
Now, Rio Hondo actors who have not done our time.
Speaking of foxes, weren't there a whole lot of animals trained in the 70s?
Oh yeah, I played a cow, crow, chickens, a lion, a birdie.
No, Bertie was a human and the little foxes. I mean, I played Rosenthal by Bertie, but that doesn't mean I literally was a rose.
I played panda.
Oh, there were animal titles too. Spanish fly.
I'm sorry. And then insect, and then snow was not about an insect.
Cuckoo's nest.
And I played panda.
Bernard the fox. Oh, and the bluebird. Bernard's bluebird set was so cool.
Weren't there even dinosaurs on the real stage?
Oh yes, in a marquee.
Ah, and a live goat, and he has the youngest move.
Oh yes, and live goat. Poop.
And let's not forget Corky as goat, and the Robert Bragg.
And I played panda.
And Invisible Rabbit and Harvey, and donkeys and bears and foxes and ravens and a marmot
And pandas.
Romeo and Juliet and being blown away by their talent.
Let me be frank.
And
Touring is a big memory for me.
Oh, me too. You know, Jean introduced touring in the 1970s. She took 5 tours in that decade alone. She must have been pooped.
I went on that first USO tour in 71. We did Funny Girl and a variety show.
then there was the Apple Tree Tour in 75.
And let's not forget the Robert Bridegroom in 1979. I can still remember performing on the back of 2 tank carriers in the middle of a baseball field full of Marines. Big. Burly.
At the base of Mount Fuji.
I remember the helicopter ride to Korea. It was like being in band.
We got shipped no helicopters, but we did get to perform on the hangar deck of the USS Midway.
Kimchi cabs, kimchi, rice patties, jitneys, the road to Baguio, tree toads, cockroaches, geckos.
Weren't the geckos supposed to eat the cockroaches?
So they said, you know, those cockroaches are bigger than the geckos.
Oh, you baby sucking pig!
There were a few discomforts. Performing for the servicemen and their families was one of the most rewarding and meaningful experiences of my life. I can't remember when I felt more appreciated or talking.
Oh, yeah. Oh, but let's not forget the Edinburgh tours. Those started in the 70s, too.
Yeah, we did 5 shows in 76.
Our town.
I especially love changing from Emily to a panda.
Oh, that was in General Gorgeous.
Conquest of My Brother, Days at Sea, Story Theater.
I played the fish in that one.
I remember dancing around Gil Jordan's teepee in a park in Edinburgh for a BBC commercial.
Handing out flyers on Princess Street.
The most beautiful street in the world.
And don't forget, wax floors and statues. Pat O'Connor sliding across the stage.
Oh, that was at an army base in Berlin on our way to Poland.
Poland, where the audiences waved American flags and threw roses on the stage.
Don't ask.
Polish theater reference. Gene gets it.
Well, on the second tour, Gene got smart and only took 3 shows. The Robert Bridegroom, Miss Hanford Beauty Pageant, and the Battle of the Bands, and
Our town.
Didn't you guys win 2 Fringe Festival firsts on that tour?
you can say it. Yes, for Miss Hanford and Robert Bridegroom.
What? Not our town?
Oh, look, one of the Miss Hanford acts recorded a radio ad for the BBC. We could hear ourselves singing out of car radios as we walked down the street.
Hey, you guys are forgetting there were also tours right here at home. My first shows at Rio were a summer tour of parks doing Story Theater and the Factory at elementary school.
Oh, how could I forget the factory? I love that Ed Ryder brought such great children's theater to Rio.
Jim Yarmer and Kevin O'Malley had this great routine called Barney and Yardini. Didn't you guys do it at Camp Hamilton?
Yes, we performed for the Vietnamese refugee children. Talk about being appreciated.
You know, touring gave us a lot of us, our first exposure to a world beyond our little comfort zones and boundaries. I mean, I was just this young kid from Rio Hondo, never been further away from the Midwest or been on a plane.
Well, all I can say is maybe Mrs. Gibbs never got to go to Paris, France, but I'm sure glad I did.
Well, how many of you were able to travel with Rio Hondo, either USO, Edinburgh, or China?
Hear something? A boombox? We thought we were going to.
Okay, what are we doing here?
We're
Again.
here to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Wray Theater. What do you think? These are my regular clothes. They're so cute.
This is my closet.
So Carl, like, what shows did you do?
Like I did? Well, I was what you would call at that time a professional student. It means I spent a lot of time here at Harvard on the Hill. Oh, if college credits were currency, I would own this place! I will assume you did not hear that and continue. What shows did I do? You've caught me off guard. I don't know if I can remember. Oh. I started my second day of college, got cast in Lone Star, then continued to the other bus stop. Pippin, 1940s radio hour. 1940s radio far east. Code word, cable links. Hey, you know what I'm talking about. 1940s radio hour Europe. Again, code name, cable links. King of Cloud, University. Streetcar Named Desire. The dining room in my mind's eye. Miss Hanford and the Metal Bands. Apple Tree. Off the bus. All the world's a stage, and the world was supposed to follow. How to succeed without really trying. Run. Night of the Living One Acts. Witness for the prosecution. And June Moon. Oh, speaking of transitions, traditions, thank you for reminding me. I have a confession to make. I have stolen a tradition from Rio Hondo that I use to this day. For 23 years, since I last had my last show here, I have kissed every opening stage to this day. I hope you let me take that. How about you? What have you?
Well, the first show that I auditioned for, I was an actor looking for work, as usual, and saw a flyer for the Edinburgh Festival in 1986, and so I talked to my boyfriend, Dan Smith, into coming with me to Rio Hondo, and we auditioned here, and met Bill Corp and Jean Corp, and it was like, wow, this dynasty here. And I auditioned. My first role was a New York maniacal producer, kind of stepping all over at Elizabethan Acting Company, and my first line at auditions was, "Who doth one have to fuck to get a cup of tea?" And I got some of the best reviews of my life. A star for Julius Caesar single act. That goes a long way for an actor. Then I was directed by Jean Corp in Agnes of God. And I remember we had one performance, only 3 people in the audience. There were 3 nuns. Beautiful show. Another wonderful, wonderful review. Deborah DeLiso is a revelation as the neurotic but endearing Improv was phenomenal. Also, Gene gave me my first assistant directing job on Apple Tree, and I am now making a living teaching and directing at USC and the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. As a director, I am eternally grateful. Has anybody else had their first directing job or teaching job here at Rio? Stand up.
Come on now.
As for me, I came to Rio Hondo utilizing their 7-year graduation program. But while I was here, I got to be in many shows. Actually, the very first show I got cast in was the Talisman. Now, the Talisman, ironically, was Bill Court's first play he directed here. And the show has something to do about redheads being persecuted. With all those shows, I got to perform many roles. I got to be people who I wouldn't normally get to be in. I was a sheriff in Harrison, Texas. I played jazz piano in June Moon. I wore a toga and a funny thing happened when I was before. I was a dancing businessman and how to succeed in business. In The Rivals, I got the sword fight, which was choreographed brilliantly by Tony Carrero. I got the sword fight with Carl Schott. And true story, one night I missed a cue and I almost stabbed him. Nobody's forgiven me since then. I remember a show called Sister Mary Ignatius at the old Putnam Center. Those who remember the Putnam Center, it was a building shaped like a flying saucer. It's a land at Rio Hondo for some reason. One show that I did that sticks out amongst the others is being cast into Jillian on her 37th birthday.
To Jillian, our 37th birthday was Jean's final official play before she retired. I remember having a massive aha moment during that play and realizing that I was never going to be a great actor. So I became a stage manager. And I stage managed True West, and I hung lights for the Mystery of Edwin Drood. Yeah. And I was the assistant director on How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, The Foreigner, Picnic at Hanging Rock, Old Hippies, and Forum. Forum and Old Hippies were two of 7 plays that we took to Scotland in 1989.
1989, my first experience with Rio Hondo College and the core family, and it all happened because my friend Deborah said to me, "Hey, do you want to go to Scotland?" Yeah. All you have to do is audition and come up with $4,000. Okay. So I find the money, I audition, I get in some plays, and then discover we're taking 7 shows to a foreign land with college students. What? But there was obviously an organization to this thing and some kind of movement, and so it all happened, and it turned out to be the best summer of my freaking life. I'm not sure, but I may have been the first Asian American man to portray pseudolithia, and a funny thing happened in English. A wonderful character and a wonderful drama with my good friend Dan Smith, a play about nuclear war and love and peace. And why war? Why? But what was really amazing about that summer was I got a chance after the festival, after the group came back to America, Dan and I backpacked through Europe, and I went to my uncle's grave in France, a man who died in World War II for freedom, for the chance for somebody like me to come to a place like Rio Hondo, audition for a part that's not meant for, say, an Asian American man. It's okay. So it was, and I
actually. Did anybody out there get married on a Scotland tour?
So please stand if you met your future spouse here at Rio Hondo Theater. How many people here met your future ex-spouse?
While performing in Germany, one of the GIs there was so taken a fancy by our little group that he decided to come all the way back to Southern California and enroll in the theater department.
What we believe is the furthest anybody's ever traveled just to attend Rio Hondo Theater. From Germany to Minneapolis to Whittier, California, Mark Sellers. Mark,
How about Moon Children?
all right.
The night Thoreau spent in jail. She's Scampino, which was a real tour de force for Charter. Amelia, an original play which won a Theater Festival Award. Arsenic Old Place, the Shakespearean Marathon Act, and this Hampshire Beauty Pageant.
You're forgetting Madame Lamonta.
I've been to Rio for so long, I forgot how long I've known you. What good friends you are.
I know a lot of people have met and kept lasting friendships based on here at Rio Hondo. So with that, we want to introduce this video created by Chris Banda. And with no more further ado, cue video.
Probably the most important thing that comes to mind is truly the friendships and relationships. I'm still friends with so many people from that, and I don't really think I'm friends with one person I went to high school with, but I'm friends with probably 20 plus people and good friends that we still get together with that I've met over the years here at Rio.
Well, you meet and the connections that you make, and I mean, I've only been here in the theater program about 4 years, but I can see those connections already starting to happen.
To have the incredible experiences I had, to find the incredible friendships that I have that have lasted me since 1974, that I still have to this day.
Noise Off in our town was a time when I met people that would become significant in my life for the rest of my life. At the time, I didn't know at the time, but the man that would become my best man in my wedding, and also the woman who would become my wife. Oh, here's my wife. Come here. This is Tamara. This is the woman I married.
Hi.
I met so many years ago.
Thank you.
All right.
Move it. I was very sheltered growing up, and I think coming here really opened my eyes to a lot of new experiences. The people I met really allowed me to kind of develop into who I am.
Well, Gabe Crosco still owes me $20 since 1989. So I do add interest. Other than that, I enjoy my time at Rio Hondo. It was a lot of fun. It's one of those things, like I guess most people would say, I wouldn't change anything at all.
For me, Rio Hondo was family. I've made so many friends here. The instructors here, Bill and Tony and Perry, have meant so much to me, and they've kind of driven me to where I am today. You know, maybe I don't teach theater, but like I said, I'm a teacher, and they've really inspired me in that craft.
I can't separate Rio Hondo Theater from the idea of Rio Hondo College in my mind, because to me it's just, that's what Rio Hondo is for me. Rio Hondo for me is the Rio Hondo Theater Department.
My wife in the play was Marcy Barra, and we fought. Our roles during the play were to fight the whole play. Those were our lines. But the other thing that was strange was I really, really hated her the whole time. Did she hear you? Yeah, good. But the thing actually that was strange was by the end of it, I really felt like she cared about me more than almost anybody there. And I don't know why. And she was one of the only people I've seen since I left Rio, so.
Probably the main thing is that a lot of my best friends I've met through Rio Hondo. You know, when I was a student here, my best friends, like Jim and Scott and Pat and a lot of others. And then I started teaching here, and I had some students who became lifelong friends like her, Kathy. And then I was thinking about this too, that I had a student named Donna who started doing some stuff for us, became a good friend, and then introduced me to my wife. So that's pretty memorable. Rio's been pretty darn important to me in a heck of a lot of ways I can't even get into because it would take forever.
Are there any last comments you'd like to make before we end the lists?
No. Oh wait. Rio Hondo made me what I am today. You changed my life.
The experience of every decade is always uniquely different. The 1990s was unique in a whole different kind of way. The 90s was a volatile time to be a student at Rio Hondo, politically, culturally, and personally. The decade saw the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. No matter how far apart we stood from each other, we all knew that we were still connected somehow in some way.
I have a lot of amazing memories and emotions and feelings from doing the one acts here. Getting together with friends and creating this production to entertain people, I mean, a lot of work goes into it. I didn't think that much work goes into put in a play, much less a one act, hitting your marks and, you know, costumes. But at the same time, that stage for me felt like such a safe place, in the sense of it was a place where I can make mistakes, I can succeed, I can fail, but yet I wasn't being judged by my other fellow students and actors, because this was our safe zone. And I was very, very grateful to have a great group of people that we can play and have fun with and laugh and cry and just create amazing, amazing memories here that I'll never ever forget.
One of the things I do remember the most is our Shakespeare in the Park that we had done with Tony. A lot of fun. We did Love's Labor's Lost, Midsummer Night's Dream. The most thing I remember about those shows is performing outside and just how different it was from being on stage. And I remember doing it thinking, you know, was this the way people might have done it, like on the countryside of England, you know, just doing plays out there. During that time, I actually quit smoking cigarettes because I couldn't get my voice to project that far out. But I remember those being a lot of fun and everything just being adventurous. You know, doing Shakespeare with the Southern accent like we did in Love's Labours was just totally, you know, off the wall. But it was the fun of doing Shakespeare, really.
La Malinche, Bernabé, Rancho Hollywood, Canciones de Nuestra Alma, and Roosters. These are just some of the plays that Rio presented here that reflected the Chicano experience. These plays collectively explored themes of race, origin, identity, and in many ways helped bridge the gap to a more social and cultural understanding. While I was a student here, I performed in many of those plays, enjoying the camaraderie with working with other students of all races in these plays. As a student here, I know I've gained valuable insight and understanding in performing here, and as well as just experiencing life as a student. And I hope you did too.
The beauty of Rio Hondo in the 90s was not so much that we were the best or that we did this or that, is that we all got together and we got things done, you know. In the tech department was really small. There was not that many of us there, but we did everything together. We would have class, we would all come in, hang out, and we would go to our regular classes and then come back. And we'd learn stuff from ourselves. There was no like set way to do stuff, just the best way we knew how. It was beautiful.
I've had a lot of great memories. Irene Ryan's were some of the best times I've had. Just going in as a team, you know, we went in happy for everybody. We were supportive of one another. Whenever anybody was competing, we were all there as a group, all together, and it was like a family. It just felt really, really good.
During my time at Rio, I auditioned for a play called Equus, and the play had been done before. The girl who played the main character, Jill, our little Jacqueline, she had gotten married and decided to have a child. So during the second run, she was pregnant, so they had auditions for the character. For those of you who are not familiar with the play has full nudity. I remember driving on campus and just kind of sitting in my car and thinking, I can't do this. There's just no way I can't do this. I was shaking in my car. Tony Carrero was there, and he sat me down and told me, honey, if you can do this, then there's nothing you can't do in life. The play did teach me a lot. It taught me to trust my friends, because everyone in there I had to trust in order to do that. And it did teach me that I could do anything.
What landed with me was the group of people that I ended up meeting here the time that I came. It was a sort of self-starter, do-it-yourself group. It was Alona, actually, that I think was the catalyst. Alona Turner. It was Latins Anonymous, basically, when we, the first show that we had done outside of theater, outside of the Rio Hondo that we did in downtown at LATC, when nobody would go downtown and no hipsters were alive. I think that stuff has gotten me to where I am today, and I think most successful, the best times, the best experiences, and the most successful I've been, whether it be reviews or just, you know, somebody remembering what I did, or from the shows that I, you know, cultivated, directed, produced, you know, where I had the say so, where it was the story that I wanted to tell. And so for that, I think that all comes back to Rio Hondo.
So during the 90s, we did this project called Voice of the Water. And what it was a lot of experimentation, different things with writing, with dance, with just performance in general. So, and for me, that time at Rio Hondo was very important because I opened up myself to a lot of new things, a lot of new relationships that I probably would have never had before. The feeling that you get, the feeling that you find here when you're doing Rio Hondo Theater, when you're trusting other people on stage, off stage, with rehearsals, with tech, you know, you form a bond that you can't really get anywhere else. It's that bond that then grows into something that's more significant. And then you find real friends, real relationships that will take you into your future. That's what I take from Rio Hondo College. And it was fun.
The whole Y2K scare turned out to be nothing at all, see? No clocks got set to zero, no data got lost, everything turned out just fine. However, everything will not be fine this evening unless we continue with the 2000s presentation. Why don't you tell us how this delay of decades kicked things off?
Sure, Michael. 2000 started with the workshop of Inspectors General, followed by the Merry Wives of Windsor. No, Whittier.
No. It's the Merry Wives of Windsor. No, Whittier.
See, inside joke.
That's right, Bruce. It was written by the Bard and directed by the lovely Deborah DeLusso and Tony Carrero. And starring Tony Carrero. It was part of the Summer Shakespeare series by Perry Sides and
Tony Carrero.
So, also, we did a bunch of Shakespeare as well, including Comedy of Errors, which had a fantastic soundtrack, by the way. And Elvis as Petruchio. was a brilliantly made play by Seth, pitting myself and the gorgeous Maricela Ayala, who hated each other, by the way. But it played well, and we did a good job, apparently. And there were some other pictures later on.
In the spring of 2005, Tony Plana came and directed an East LA Zoot Suit adaptation of Romeo and Juliet.
And after this decade's final Shakespeare production was a classic style of 12 months. Hey, I thought around 2000 we also did Rancho Hollywood. Come on. International audience that California and Hollywood history was full of racism, discrimination, and exploitation of minorities by the white man. Thank you very much. I remember one memory, it actually wasn't in the play, and that was when I was in a bar and somebody was speaking Scottish to me, which I think was the same language, but I'm not sure. And all of a sudden there was a man up there singing karaoke, and there was women all over him, screaming, loving him, and that was Gabe Carrasco.
You know, following that year, we went to China with our sister city in Changchun, and we did, again, our time. Well, I wasn't our time, we did our time.
Back in China in 2005, and I gotta say I was proud to be a part of it. We teamed up with the choir department director, Dr. Linda Brown, with Lauren Kearns as our choreographer, to put on a show that we called Patchwork of the West, which was about the Lewis and Clark expedition of 1804. Rio Hondo Theater just wanted to share a little bit about American folklore with our brothers and sisters in Changshu, China. And I'm glad to say we had a great time doing it.
Yes, we did.
Version of The Seagull, directed by
Seth Panich. Now, that guy has some really inspiring stuff to do. And actually, Matt Schleicher took a big trip to Hearst Castle and he designed a set.
I'm a seagull! No, I'm an actress. I'm a seagull! No, I'm an actress. Nobody ever updated Chekhov, but we did, right? And I
In 2002, the department performed The Men in Death with Danny Gonzalez and took it to the Chicano Theater Festival at UCLA. We were one of the only community colleges to be asked to perform with all the other universities, and Bill Clark was the only non-Chicano asked to direct.
Now, there were many musicals done in this decade, such as Working, which was Dr. Linda Brown's first musical with Rio Hondo. And there was also the dark classic Into the Woods, and another production of The Robber Bridegroom, in which I
Summer 2005 saw the return of summer musicals after a long absence, beginning with A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum.
in which I played a eunuch. The next show in the revised summer musical series was a remake of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, a show that we all know is about rising to the top of a company that accidentally gives away all of its stock. Now, the following two summer shows displayed a lot of art. Once on this Island was about following your heart to find true love, and Susical the Musical was about standing up for what you believe in despite all the obstacles.
Other shows were Rumors, What's in the Water, Comedy of Airs, and Casa de Village.
There was also Black Comedy, a British comedy about being in the dark, and starring yours truly, which happened to be my first leading role in my theatrical career.
In the spring 2006, Rio Hondo College said farewell to the beloved Putnam Center.
The mothership from outer space.
Remembering the future, had set designer Eric Larson replicate a demolished Putnam Center here on this very stage, and even feature actual staff and faculty in the show to remember the Putnam Center and to look on to Rio Hondo's future.
There was also a doll's house, Caucasian shop circle, the president, and parasites, our very own stripper Santa. Returned to directing in the fall of 2007. With Nickel and Dime followed the next fall by a production in which he pieced together classic radio shows.
In 2008, we saw the retirement of Mr. Seitz after serving Rio Hondo for a period of 3 decades.
So Paris is the one to beat.
There's always been the 10-minute play festival held every fall, encouraging aspiring writers and directors to collaborate and create new plays. But I always encourage the actors of the nows to take the playwriting class. Don't wait 10 years like I did to start.
You see it offered, take it. Now, these plays ranged on both ends of the spectrum. There were serious stories discussing political bombings, abortions, teen suicide, gay rights, and crossing the border from Mexico in hope of a better life, as well as some light stories about the nice guy getting a girl, driving in cars with friends, getting high, and robots trying to have sex.
Spring of '09 saw a production held in the Black Box Theater put together without any help from faculty. They called it the 2x2.
Yes, we were truly seeing young artists creating theater, ACT, which just so happens to be the name of the theater club which Stephanie Heckel created with myself and others in the spring of 2008. This is a club that I'm very glad to see still lives on today.
Michael, it seems like you've done so much over so many years.
Yes, man, that is true. Something Bill often likes to remind me of. In my short 6 years of doing Rio Hondo, I've been involved both on stage and backstage. But I'm sure I'm not the only one who's been so heavily involved in so many productions here at Rio Hondo. Can we get the lights in the house, please? Now, please stand if during your time here at Rio Hondo you have both stage crew and acted in a production. Both. I just want to organize. Finally, the 2000s wraps up the decade with one final musical, Godspell, and a simply remarkable play, Metamorphosis. But it actually required a pool to be built in the Black Box Theater.
Hey! I was in those two! Actually, my first play ever getting a lead role in Godspell. And Deborah, thank you. And that actually kept me around for the next fall to be a part of this. They see me as Cupid. One of the many characters I played in Metamorphosis, and where I could not believe the experience that I had. The water was representation of the sea, the underworld, the love shack, a ship, everything. It was such a beautiful place. The only thing, especially being Cupid, was the water was super cold.
Thank you. Yes, Dave and I worked greatly to get that water warmed up with that. As far as I know, that's all the shows that we did here in the 2000s. Possible if you got left out, but it was nothing personal. Of course, the 2000s was quite a busy decade for Rio Hondo with so many happening around the campus, as I'm sure you've seen. But nevertheless, Rio Hondo's Department of Theater keeps growing, evolving, and doing more shows. So, that's all for the millennium decade. Thank you.
Juliana and I are so glad that so many of you were able to come tonight. We're certainly aware that there are a lot of people who couldn't come. Some of them just because they live too far away. Some of them had obligations obligations tonight, including working in the theater, which is great to know. Sadly, we know a lot of people just never found out about this event. And especially sad that a lot of people are not with us anymore.
You may have been wondering about this theater seat on stage left. That is the seat that remains empty to honor those who have passed on. We will remember them now in this short film. We know we do not have everyone in this film, but we can pause for a few moments to remember them all.
Been an amazing experience putting this event together. I have really enjoyed reconnecting with you. I've been more amazed by watching you reconnect with each other over the last 4 months. And I really want to thank all of you, especially those of you who answered my request for volunteers back in January, whatever it was. You've given so much time and so many ideas and such massive effort. This could never have happened without you. But, as the stage manager says in our town, there are too many of you to mention. So let me say a thank you to all of the decade, design, and advisory committee members who became the playwrights and performers in the telling of your decade's experiences and contributions to Rio Hondo Theater. I do want to also thank Rosanna for solving problems constantly as they came up. A special thanks to Chris Banda for taking on the video project. Putting together the slideshow. And especially thank the 7 members of the organizing committee. It consists of 7 of our current students, and I'm sure they had no idea what they were getting into. They have been the foundation on which this event was able to grow. They have put in hours and hours, even as they had to juggle plays that they were in and their classes and, of course, their personal lives. So I would like to thank them for bringing us all together, and they are Danny,
Rio Hondo College Theater department. Though our decade is still young and seemingly far removed from those that were a part of Solid Gold Cadillac and Enter Laughing, we have much in common with you.
Like many of you sitting before me, we have toured to Edinburgh as well. We continue to put our hearts into shows and participate in the 10-minute play festivals every fall and spring, producing tried and true plays and daring originals. The theater club that was started in the aughts by students, ACT, is still going strong. Like you did before us, we have talented and hardworking students that direct and play and act in plays written by their students. We have even acted in some of the same plays, playing the same parts on the very same stages that you have. 12 Angry Jurors.
Yeah.
The Good Doctor.
Yeah.
Working.
Yeah.
A Midsummer Night's Dream. Kind of. And of course, Martin. In fact, we have even acted in the same shows that some of you have on tour. The Miss Hamford Beauty Pageant in Battle of the Bands, which was taken to Edinburgh originally in the 70s, was taken twice more. In the 80s, like you know, and once again on the last tour in 2010.
When we began this process of putting the event together, us kids only knew the Rio Hondo Theater department that we have lived. We were ignorant of its rich history and everything that went into this building. Thankfully, we have living and talking portals to the past and Bill and Gabe. If not for them, we would not have ever learned about the amazing alumni production of Midsummers, where the audience roamed the campus, overrun, rappelled down a tree, and by the way of the brilliant designs of John Ford. And Philly and in Yadis, the fairies disappeared with the flick of a switch. Or about the production of Assassins in 1994, written by the iconic American composer Stephen Sondheim, and directed by Perry Sykes. Written where the drama occurred before the play was even blocked. The rights were attempted to be revoked, but because Rio Hondo had already paid for them, the production was able to go on and become the West Coast premiere of the show. We would not have ever heard about that special performance of Liz Estrada, in which the audience full of Gene Corp's former students surprised her with a retirement party once she took her seat.
Like many of you, we also have been lucky enough to be offered the opportunity to take part in the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival, which began in 1969. Out of the more than 600 institutions that currently participate in the festival, Rio Hondo was an inaugural member with its production of Rashomon, the regional finalist in the first festival. We were Region 2 then, now we are Region 8. If you were ever an Irene Ryan nominee, please stand up.
Since 1969, Rio Hondo has faithfully attended the festival, being the only school to have participated every single year, and the festival has faithfully enriched its students, whether through the Irene Ryan audition or any of the other numerous aspects of the festival. The workshops, the performances, the professional opportunities like Next Step, and the opportunities to work on the plays there as either an actor or stage manager. If you have ever attended the festival in any capacity, please stand up. After the summer of working, our theater department head, Bill Corp, took a sabbatical, but the thought being that the program became stagnant. We had other brilliant staff who brought us beautiful shows such as Eurydice, directed by Lisa Euler, Anna in the Tropics, directed by Susanna Levitt, and a stage reading of The Guys, directed by Kurt Vishengrad. Our new technical theater instructor, Carrie Farmer, continues to assimilate, and more students continue to wander into auditions, and accordingly, like so many other students who once nervously wandered into auditions, found what they are meant to find at Rio Hondo College. Myself, along with those next to me included.
When Bill came back from the sabbatical, he brought with him devising. It can be argued that Rio Hondo had devised before in the previous decades, and it's true that there were other original plays curated through collaborative efforts, like Voice of the Water, like the Neighborhood Project. But now there was a formula in place that supported an immersive, all-encompassing effort that took every aspect of theater into account when creating a play. And so far, Rio Hondo has proudly produced 2 devised plays, Technology and A Mid-Autumn Night's Audition. And I can speak for all of the devisers when I emphatically say, proudly. To give you an idea about what devising is, That same class that so many of you here tonight have taken in the past has devised a short piece inspired by Rio Hondo Theater to share with you.
Those are relatively boring Friday night. I didn't have much going on, so I called my friend Michael to see what was going on with him.
Just come to the cast party tonight.
Alright, man, I'll see what's up. At the cast party, I met a lot of people who had a real verve and passion for what they do. They were all part of the theater program at Rio Hondo. At the party, my friend Zoe got on my case about never showing any support for the theater program.
Elijah, I thought we were friends. You need to come watch one of our shows.
It really struck my pride as a friend. So I decided to come to the next performance, and I was thoroughly impressed by what I saw. That summer, my friends were really on my case about signing up for this 170 class in Gold Court.
You should take theater instead.
Do it.
So on the last possible day, I registered for the course, and I never looked back. Theater changed my life.
What do you mean by that? I'm tired of people giving this general. How did it? Can you give us some examples, please?
Let me like this.
It is more than just about rehearsing and performing. It is about the hard work and the obstacles one has to go through to go from A to B. It is about believing that others can do things that they thought they couldn't accomplish. Whether it's from performing for the first time and getting rid of the stage fright, or memorizing super long, crazy monologues. It is about how nothing becomes something big.
I can finally be myself and no one would judge me. I'm usually looked at like a freak or even sometimes a weirdo. But here, I was just another person. I was someone who wouldn't look like a crackhead when I was off talking or rehearsing to myself. Because here, it was understood. People here are crazy and chaotic, and a lot of them have juicy fucking personalities. Come on, everybody. Baby shark, big shark. Everyone seems to have their own sense of character. Talking about character, embodying someone completely different from my own persona is so much fun. It kind of reminds me of when I was a kid playing dress up.
My dreams.
Rio Theater is full of people, ideas, and dreams.
The theater kept me trying to reach for the moon in the hopes that if I fail, I will land on a star.
No matter which way the wind blows me, I will stay on course.
That's how Rio Hondo Theater changed my life.
Now, finally, when we look towards the future and look at what the upcoming terrain looks like for Rio Hondo Theater students, most immediately is Linda Brown's final musical here this summer. Hopefully, a class devoted to devising will be a part of curriculum next spring. The building just across the way, the campus inn, will be torn down to create a new art center that will have theater classes in the basement. And this building will be renovated too, to create a large black box, a larger shop, and a small balcony for our beloved Wray Theater. In a moment, I'd like to introduce Chris Banda for a few words.
Hi, quickly, I'd like to reiterate what Bill said about all the current students that put this together, that we would not be here if it wasn't for them, so let's give them a round of applause. We just wanted to say, Bill thanked a lot of people, and we wanted to thank Bill. an amazing guiding force and a mentor, even though he doesn't know that. So again, thank you, Bill, for putting this all together from the bottom of my heart. I love you.